What's going on, Vapor fans? So today we're going to do a fused Clapton tutorial. Okay, I got a couple of new toys, a couple of things that I like to show you guys, little small reveals here and there, but I didn't want it to make, a bunch of small boring videos and stuff like that. Rather, I would like to, do a build tutorial, have some cool things featured in it, and show you my take on how to do different kind of things. Basically, the idea behind this setup is to make a more flavorful coil. One day when I was chatting with my friend Kent Hill, you guys know him as Twisted Messes, we were talking about like these different art coils versus like what type of batteries to use and stuff like that. The more curious I got, the more he was talking about like, well, if you don't build these coils or whatever, it's just not going to be flavorful. And I couldn't believe that, I used to vape the way I did before with just regular coils. I was like, really? Is it really that big of a deal? Until I finally tried it myself, and I am now a believer. So let's dive down and begin. Alright guys, so before we begin, let's talk about the things that we need. Okay, we're going to need two types of Kanthal, alright, or nichrome, up to you. So it's going to be a core wire and there's going to be a wrapping wire. For this case, we're going to be using 26 gauge Kanthal and 36 gauge to wrap around it. Right. For different kinds of Kanthals, for the core wire, I recommend anywhere between 24 to 26, and the wrapping wire of 34 to 36. Now, you don't want to go too thin on the core wire because then there'll be too many twists on it, and you don't want to go too thick either because then it'll be too hard to bend. Same thing on the thicker wire over here, with the same idea and principles. So, other than this, you will need yourself a drill. Okay, I personally use a smaller hand drill over here, and for the sake of this tutorial, I will be featuring the Coil Master V2 kit. Right, I'm going to be using as many tools as possible, from the everything that you see here, the wire cutters to the pliers to the coiling kit, even the scissors and the voltmeter. I also recommend that you get yourself a very, very large screwdriver over here for the sake of holding the spool. Later on, we will be placing the screwdriver into the spool like so, and then placing it on our lap so that it could freely spin as we move along. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to show you guys is this little coil jig. Okay, remember this was the old school jig, right? And what I did is that I put a notch on it. I just filed it down, okay? And let me show you the portion right here. And what I did was that I used one of these files that kind of look like this, just laid it out on the table with one of the sharper ends up, and then placed this right on top of it, and then ran it back and forth until I got this nice groove over here. Okay. Now, it is the same principle as using one of the Kanger coil heads. I am aware of this, but this one for me is just a little bit easier, as we could put this on the tension spool over here and then just let it run and then slowly guide it along, as opposed to using the Kanger coil where I would have to pinch it with my thumbs, and it's just a lot harder to work with, a little more work done. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you how this one works. So what I'm going to do is that I have my 36 gauge Kanthal over here sitting on the spool on the large screwdriver over here, and I'm just going to place this on my lap. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a portion of this and I'm going to feed it through like so. Okay, and pull a little bit over. Then I'm going to put the rest over here into this spool where this portion is, and then we tighten this down. Okay, and then we make sure that it is the right amount of tension, not ridiculously tight either. So I'm going to loosen it just a little bit and tighten it a little bit back, and that's just about right. So I'm going to set this on the side. Right, now we need to do a little bit of the core wire. Now the core wire, we also need to straighten out the wire as well as measure the length of it. So I figured the perfect length for me basically is just 2 unfolds. Okay, so if you have a spool of this size, 1, right, and then 2. The trick to doing these Claptons and stuff like that, right, is to not get greedy and use exactly as much as you need. Because if you try to do a lot of the Clapton, then you have so much more to, and then you got a whole different setup going on. So I'm going to use the cutters that came with the kit over here. right, as well as the pliers. So what we're going to do to straighten out the canthal is to apply it into the drill chuck. So I'm going to open it up over here, close this down, and then we're going to spin this clockwise. So on the other end over here, I'm just going to pinch on the plier, and then we're going to pull straight over here, and then spin. You don't have to spin it until it breaks, just pretty much so that like it starts to straighten out, and that's good enough. Now we're going to take this out of the chuck, somewhere along the middle of our canthal that we just got, right? And then we just snip it in half. There we go. Okay, now the two parts that we just snipped, we're going to take that, and then we're going to take some of our 36 that we fed through our jig, and then give it a couple of wraps manually. There we go. Okay. I'm really hoping this tutorial is going to be really easy to follow. Alright, then I'm going to push it back here a little bit, and then show you guys into the camera. Right. I'm try to focus this for you guys so you can see what's going on. Right. Now I'm going to bring it over to the chuck. Okay. Open this up, tighten it. There we go. Okay, put it back on clockwise. Right. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do a little bit of the beginning by hand. So when we do this by hand, just go slow. Okay? The first section of it is always going to be pretty ugly. No big deal. Right? Once you got it going a little bit, okay? Right? I'm going to bring the camera over so that you can see what's going on over here. Bring down the camera a little bit more, right? And then let's focus this in so you can see very clearly, right? The right amount of tension here. So I'm just going to slowly hold on to this and then let it roll. Okay. Once it's got its groove, then we could go faster. Okay, now we could go ahead and remove this from the chuck. Everything is nice and even, silky smooth. So using the Coil Master V2 kit, we're going to do 6 wraps on each side with this rod using the 3.0. So first we're going to take our coil over here and then just make sure that the beginning is nice and flat and even. Okay. Now you will see in some tutorials where they get nylon pliers to try to balance the whole thing out, but I find that unnecessary when you're wrapping these things. Okay. The weight of wrapping them is going to straighten them out, and you only need to work them out towards the end. Okay, so I'm not even going to be concerned with the twists in them at the moment. I'm just going to go ahead and begin wrapping. So here is my tool. Okay, so that's 2 wraps. Okay, there we go. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay, we'll use the pliers on the other side and also give it a nice tug. Okay, this is nicely put together now. We'll make two and get ready for install. So we're going to take the first coil over here, okay, and we're going to straighten it out with the needle nose plier that came with the kit. Okay, that way it's nice and flat. When the grub screw comes down on it, it'll make a solid connection. Okay, so take this little guy, put it in here and here. Now we tie this down. I'm going to keep Coil Master rod somewhere right here so that I can monitor, so I can make sure that my coil will be directly over my airflow as I need it later. Okay. So, okay. Now, you want to at least clip this lead first. Because we don't want any interference over here, so we're going to slightly measure this by eye, and then right around here we're going to clip off the excess that we don't need. Any excess over here, we can easily get to it, clip off the extra. Now, let's use the ohm meter that came with the kit, just to get a rough idea of where we're at. .22, 0.25 build. Okay. So we will be using some Pegasus Vapor Academy batteries. Okay, these are, this is a type B battery, and it says analog parallel for 0.27 to 0.11. So okay, so this is the Kendo cotton. Now, I don't really recommend this cotton for beginner users because basically it looks like mattress stuffing in a little bag. However, the material itself is shockingly really good. So until you get a little bit better at wicking, what happens is that, you know, this thing comes in a huge clump. So you have to be really, really good at cutting up some wick by eye, and then, you know, being able to wick your atomizers. It will take just a little bit of practice, but, you know, you will be able to do it very easily afterwards. Alright, so I guess from this point, just gotta have to wick things up. So put your wick through and keep everything nice and fluffy and balanced, right? As always, you know, not too much tension, just enough. And then cut everything off nice and clean and balanced. Then from this point, we're just gonna get our flathead screwdriver and start to tuck everything in. Okay, so get all four corners nice and even, and you have your neat setup over here. Now, before we do anything else, what we're going to do is that we're going to take this back over to the meter one more time, just to make sure that, you know, it's metered properly. Because after you worked out the hot spots and everything, it's going to meter just slightly different than when you first metered it. Now we're going to put a little bit of juice on it, and we should be able to fire this thing soon. Now keep in mind that the more absorbent your wick is, the more it fights you in the beginning. So be very patient with the kendo cotton on this one. It takes a little while before it starts to, you know, really get in there. Alright guys, so that was my Fuse Clapton tutorial featuring the Coil Master V2 kit. Shoutouts to Kevin and Mike, thanks for the kit. And yeah, there's nothing else to do but to vape on it, so let's take a hit. Needless to say that anybody who's been using a Fuse Clapton or regular Clapton wires will tell you that it is an incredibly flavorful vape. Okay, now that I've been building different kinds of Claptons and stuff, it's almost really hard to go back to regular coils. Shoutouts to my boy Kent Twisted Messes for turning me on to art coils, as I was a disbeliever before. So until next time guys, do your homework and vape clever. Take care everyone.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
So we're feeling pretty generous at PVA today. If you could tell me what movie that clip was from, as well as what RDA that I was using, then what happens is that you will win yourself a full pack of the PVA batteries that has yet to hit the market. Yes, you will get all 5 types, a pair of each, 10 batteries total. So let us know in the comments below, and good luck everyone.